Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Youth on the Wheels. We are Noah and Hawa, your hosts, and we appreciate you joining the conversation.
Welcome to Youth on the Wheels podcast. Those who stay tuned, thank you. And those who are here for the first time, we are happy to have you. We are Noah and Hawa, your hosts, and this is our fourth episode themed Breaking the Silence, Exploring Men's Mental Health, Understanding Why They Struggle to Seek for Help, Redefining Strength in Masculinity. We are joined by our guests, Tuusah Mubeezi and Arins Emanzi, as they explore the detriments of unbroken silence. So I want to give this opportunity to Hawa, the woman in the house today. We are only men today. So Hawa, I want to give you the opportunity to give a brief intro of who our guests are.
Okay. Thank you, Noah. In the house, we have Tuusah Mubeezi. Tuusah is our strategic business development manager with more than 4 years of experience in sales and operations. He is a lover of God, life, and family. He's also an art enthusiast. I'm one of those people that saw Andrew on stage, and his poems are one of those that still linger in my head even when I'm giving examples. So we are happy to have you.
Why not?
Yes, the other person is our producer. Our producer, the producer of this podcast.
You know, we've been talking about Arins Emanzi in the past episodes, and no one knows. Today they get to meet Arins Emanzi.
Yes. And this guy, it's his birthday this week.
Yeah.
So we just have the honors of having him on our podcast. He is mostly known as Bana or Bunny. He's an artist, producer, composer, sound engineer, teacher. Guys, the list is endless when it comes to sound production. He majorly runs Mulika Studios, and Mulika Studios is the one that hosts our podcast or records our podcast. He's been lucky over the years because he's worked with amazing talents. This includes Kenneth Mugabe Afri, Ann Kansime, Anderea Baguma, and Kate Bass.
If you do not mention Noah Infectious, I'm just going to go.
Oh, yes. Guys, Noah Infectious.
The Noah Infectious.
Yeah. Exactly. The one that gives us infectious music. You're welcome. He studied music at Makerere University, graduated with a first-class honors, and we've seen the, evidence, the fruits of it. He's been playing instruments since he was a child. Guitar was his first love. Man. His wife is going to have a guitar for a co-wife, but we move.
Yeah.
But generally, he enjoys playing anything he gets his hands on. He is the last born in a family of 5, raised in a deeply Christian home. And whereas he's moved away from religion, he believes he's deeply spiritual, and that shows up in a lot of his work, especially in the sound, healing and meditation music that he's been creating lately. Guys, if you are looking for healing sound, it comes from Arins.
Arins Emanzi.
Yes, so we're happy to have you.
Meditation. Yeah, right.
So let's just kick it off. Yeah. What does mental health mean to you personally? Let's start with Tuusah.
Interesting. Mental health, what mental health means to me as an individual. In a nutshell, mental health is the state of your mind. And I think so many times we only diagnose the physical bodies, we only diagnose the pain that we get to feel. So most of the times, I being inclusive, we never take good care of the state of our minds because society has made us unconscious of the need to take good care of our state of mind. Because as long as you're functioning, as long as things are moving smoothly, it takes a while. And there are also cases where people have stereotyped that you just simply lack money. Like you're just broke. You can't be depressed, go make money and you feel better. Or you're just hungry. But I think as a society, we have to do better because there are cases whereby even when food is offered, even when the person is actually given money, that might not change much because their state of mind has been attacked, or they feel hopelessness, they feel a different state because they're unwell. And there are also mental illnesses that we have known to, I think, shed a lot of light on. Mental instability, depression, all these are mental illnesses. Bipolar is a mental illness. There are actually quite so many. But from our medical structures, you go and they tell you like, man, we have checked, we can't see what is wrong with your body. I think you're just fatigued. What kind of work do you do? Take 3 days rest and you feel better. But they've actually not gone the extra mile to find out mentally, are you okay? Because there's so many cases. So that's what mental health means to me, the state of your mind.
Yeah, you mentioned fatigue, and me knowing Joseph Arins, Emanzi, that's a topic that comes up all the time. Yeah, so today you get to talk about it. Are you just fatigued, or your mental health is not?
It's not okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think society today affects us in many different ways. Yeah. So fatigue is an outcome of maybe a fear that is underlying. It could be the fear of being broke. It could be the fear of, if I don't do it, who else is going to do it? So you find yourself burning yourself out. Yeah. I found myself so many times like in that state. Yeah. And I don't know if that is only limited to men. It's a general thing, actually. Yeah. But since we are defining what mental health is, I think mental health is, like Tuusah said, it's the mental well-being generally. Sometimes people have a misconception where they think it's mental illness. I think we have like to draw the line and be like, it's different. It could be mental downness, let's say.
What's that?
Mental downness.
When you're down,
you're down. Your state of mind is down. You understand?
It's on the flow,
Yeah, it's on the flow. So if it's mental well-being, then there are certain things that you're practicing or that you're doing, certain habits that you've gotten yourself used to that can enable you like have a proper or like mental well-being. So basically, I think that's where I want to leave it.
Okay. Well, so I want to put this question to both of you. What do you think of the phrase that is usually told to men? Man up. What do you think of that? You two. Like, what's your man up? Because it comes up a lot when we find men that are struggling. They are told, you're not owning up. Man up, man. Do what you have to do. You're a man. So what do you think of that phrase?
Man up. I feel that by default, from the start, I think for a boy child, by the time you're born as a boy, they're already, I think it's like a path that is laid before you as a man. And that path has so many scenarios whereby you'll have to man up. So no one is entitled. No one has the authority to remind you to actually man up. Because the life you're going to face as a man, as a boy, is basically going to be that.
Is there a situation that you've been told to man up?
That every day of your life, you're going to make life-changing decisions. For example, I've known people that have stayed in toxic workspaces because of survival. And the end goal is I have to provide, I have to make ends meet. This is no longer mine to carry alone. So this guy wakes up every day and he's manning up. But if he had a choice to choose himself out of the equation, he would actually choose himself out. But because the other people, whereby I think as a man, provision is very key. You're going to have dependent, whether your own family or people pick on along the way. So these are all some of the things that no one should ever get to tell you to man up. Because the life that you actually don't get to choose is going to ask you, is going to require you to man up from every single day of your life. that for you to decide to do the otherwise, it's going to be a cheat day. That you just decide to prioritize your mental health, you just decide to prioritize yourself in a particular, and you not have so many chances of those. That there are going to be very few cases whereby you will not man up. And it should be allowed, like you should have that allowance for you not to be required to man up every other day.
On my side, I think I want to like lay a foundation for give it context. If you say as a boy or as a man, I think everyone has heard that phrase. Your mom, your sister, or anyone that tells you man up. It's a gender, actually, it's a gender discussion where women as well have something like, you're a woman, you don't have to do this. Men have also, boundaries of where you can act up to here as a man. And it brings me to a discussion that these are all social constructs that are designed by culture, that are designed by tradition, that are designed by so many things around us. I think for me, I have, of course, to connect it to my background for it to make sense. Then the background I grew up in really, really plays a big role on how I will interpret that phrase. Because I just want to say that is, however much it's the same word, different men will interpret it differently, depending on their background, depending on what their society has shaped them to be. On my side, I grew up in a place where men have to be men, in quotes, because that also doesn't make sense. But strong masculinity, and sometimes it's on the edge of being toxic. So to be a man for me then means to be very alpha. I know that word has also been redefined over time, what alpha means, but very strong men, actually. Like my grandfather is called Washeja, which is like the man. So that family believes they believe themselves to be very, very strong men, very strong-willed. So to me, it means I make decisions which you don't challenge. I have to be a leader. I have to provide. And if I fail, I also don't owe you an explanation. So there is a lot of pressure that comes with that word, for me. So I think, which again is linked to my background.
So
I've remembered something that when someone tells you man up, it's from their perspective. They have these expectations they have of you. And because you're not living up to those expectations, they are calling you out to meet these expectations they have of you.
Through their eyes.
That you don't necessarily have a contribution to these expectations. But they have them and they require you to meet them, which I find still selfish in a way,
so
if I put it that way.
Emanzi, you brought up something that is very interesting when you said that in your perspective, man up comes from where you...
background.
Yeah, your background. How has that impacted your mental health? Because right now I know you are cautious about your mental health. And you've seen these phrases, man up, for example. How has that impacted you personally?
Good thing my intro has the fact that I'm a last born.
So some bullets were taken for you.
No, actually.
You are allowed to be a baby.
No. It's actually the opposite, that I actually had to prove. Like my life growing up, I had to prove to the people that are my elders, my brothers, my father, that I'm a man. Because these are boys already. They have a background. My dad is a stoic man, very strong. So I can't just be a last born and be weak. And when I was young, my dad said something to me. I think I was leaning on my mom, and he's like, leave my wife alone. That Yeah. That traumatized me, like, to be honest. Of course, I cried.
Yeah.
And then my mom had to explain to me, you're my child,
Yeah.
So I felt like, okay, already that trauma that was placed in me as a child, I had to grow up to prove to guys, to people, everyone around me, in my family, that I'm not the baby.
Yeah.
So it comes with a lot of pressure.
So it robbed you of some your innocence at some point, because you are still a baby then.
Yeah, it does. Actually, it did. And I lived a lot of my childhood trying to prove that. So I was very active.
I'm not a baby.
Yes, I was very active. Every time we had that, I've always been in conflict with my dad in one or another, where I felt like I needed to do something. And that caused problems. Sometimes I ran away from home for was it like a whole week when I'm not at home. So that background made me, I still find those patterns in me, because it's something that was designed in my childhood. It's not something you just quickly run away. I find that in my family, I'm the only person who has not been employed. I want to do things my way. I have this, way of doing things.
Yeah.
And there are certain mistakes that I learned from my dad, where he had to do things himself, and then at a certain point he grew old and he couldn't do them anymore. And then I had to learn, like, now I have to remind myself that however much you want things to be perfect or to do them by yourself, you can't just do it. You have to allow other people to come in your life, to contribute. So I had to take time to unlearn some of those things, but the pressure is there. Like, it's there. Being the fact that I'm not employed, the pressure I have is everyone else is employed, some have big jobs, so I have some part of it was the pressure of I have to show them that I can also, make my life be however much I'm not in the setting they're used to. I don't have to beg and ask every now and again. And those are the patterns of mental health. And I can clearly say from where we started, where you were saying that there's a lot of fatigue, those could be the explanations of why it is what it is. And I'm not justifying it.
Of course you're not just like, it's okay, it's your story.
Yeah, so that's
And we are not
basically,
judging either. So.
that's basically the background of, for me, Man Up, and what interpreting it and from my background has shaped who I am today. But the knowledge I know now flips the script. Yeah, I'll leave it there.
Okay. When you are talking, I have a child. I'm the primary caretaker of my nephew, and he's just 4. And every time I call him baby, he's like, I am not baby. I am a big boy. Nobody has ever told him man up or be a boy over what. I don't even know where he got it from. The first day he spoke, he stood on his 2 feet and he was like, I am not a baby. The baby, then he pointed at a baby. I was like, that's a baby. I'm not a baby. Yes. So I want to understand, is the masculinity we are talking about right now as men, do you think it's self-inflicted? Is it natural for men or boys to feel like all the gender roles that have been, of course, they're social constructs, and I know that these things are social constructs, but do you think there is a bit, how they say, women, this, naturally this, so there is what we call stereotypes and biases, and then there is maybe what we think is innate. Like, let's say, I'm just going to give an example of the female body, because that one is a bit evident, that maybe women get pregnant. So men can't get pregnant. Okay, of course, technology has come, and it's innate. We can't, even if we argued about it, and the technology reached where men are getting pregnant, the effort it would take is different, right? So for men, is it innate, is it in their nature to want to feel like strong, like that masculinity, to want to feel like I'm a big man, I'm the man around, I am the boss, I am the provider, I am respected, I want to know whether it is society pressure, whether it is innate, like as a child, since you're a child, you kind of naturally have an inclination to feel the respect, to feel like you have to prove yourself, to feel that, or is it both?
I want to believe that society has contributed greatly. And the background we get to have, like Bana said, also contributes. Because this is the reality you're offered. These are the cards you're given.
Exactly.
So it, in a way, shapes your mind. You're nurtured, and that becomes the reality you play in. Example, that the people that you're close to require this of you. And it's a subtle it's through subtle actions that nobody tells you the whole script, but through small actions. As a boy, you're given allowance that people should take your plates off the dining table to be taken to the kitchen. But then you realize your sister is actually asked to collect the tables, and so you're put in a place of you're going to be a leader. And then you realize, especially if you have sisters, that you're not offered the same conditions in a way. So what starts as a privilege, you later realize there are so many responsibilities held on this. So there will be examples where maybe your father is away, and small statements will be made. You're the man of the house. But you're young, and you would initially want to be like the rest of your siblings in the household, or like the rest of your sisters. And then you realize that at that point, more is required of you just because you are a boy. Just by default that you are a male individual in that space, you realize the stakes are not the same. And because the stakes are not the same, the pressure is not the same. So I'm getting back to the mental health. The pressure that is going to be exerted from externally is already high. Before you actually start figuring out what this life you've been offered requires of you. Before you get to know what my purpose is going to be like, what am I supposed to do in this event of life, already what is known are the pressure, are the expectations of the people that have actually done what? Nurtured you. Secondly, as your mindset is built, as your reality is built, this becomes your default environment. So you adapt. So you adapt to the pressures that have been exerted externally, and you carry them on with you. So because this is your reality, you get to a place whereby you can no longer differentiate between the external pressures to the internal pressures. Because by the time you started comprehending the life that you've been offered, you know these expectations have to be met. And so you start operating from out inwards. You start meeting expectations from out, and you prioritize expectations from out before you find out what the expectations of you yourself are. I don't know if that makes sense. That you get to a place whereby you can't know, you can't tell the difference whether this is exactly pressure from the society, because now this feels like this, you've carried it so long that now it feels like your own pressure. Yeah. For example, you know you have to provide. But how did you come to knowing that this is required of you?
It's what
as
you
a
grew
man?
up seeing, maybe.
It's what you grew up seeing. It's what you grew up knowing. It's what you grew up knowing that is expected of you as a male individual. So by the time you get senses in your head, you work your way around it. You know that I'm required to provide, I'm required to protect, I'm required.
But the same men say, if you do not protect your wife or your family, or you don't provide for your woman, you don't, everything you just said.
Yes.
They say they will not be respected. They say, of course, their egos will be deflated. I want to know whether the two are mutually inclusive. Or is it also socialization, the way you have described the pattern, that we are socialized to link all the pressures you've talked of to whatever privilege they get to have as men?
Mental health, I guess, hits both ways.
Yeah.
There's the negative part,
Yeah.
and there's a positive side.
Yes.
There's people who their background, they identify with it, and it has defined who they are, and they love it.
Yeah.
Because now that's the complexity of this whole thing, that you can't just be on one side.
Yeah.
Or they think that this is part of my life and it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And everything, and their life is complete because of that background.
Yeah.
That whether the background is toxic masculinity, that is their world, and they are fulfilled, they are happy. They will never have any mental breakdown.
Don't question.
They don't question, they are comfortable. That's like a approved template that has been designed.
It works.
The hypothesis was proved right.
Yes, that it works, and they are okay and happy, and their life is smooth.
Yeah.
The challenge comes when you try to shower them with awareness.
Yeah.
And you
They say, "Wait."
yes, you challenge their paradigm,
Yeah.
their whole perspective of life.
Yeah.
That's when they start doubting.
Yeah.
But I think anyway, it's a path that everyone,
Most of them actually don't doubt. In those moments, they resort to either violence or they just
Autopilot.
because they have a conflict inside their heads that is going. You've challenged their system that is already proven.
Yeah.
And now they're there thinking, what am I supposed
what
to,
next?
to
Yeah,
do?
yeah,
What next? Yeah.
Yeah, this is all I know. I
Yeah.
get you.
And it can mess them up. That can also be another version of mental breakdown. Where like when you question your whole existence. And all the rules that have held your world, it can be so traumatizing. It can be actually it's worse than a heartbreak. So you can imagine the depression that person has. Yeah.
So your measurement, measure of pain. is heartbreak.
Personally, when I was I'm not religious anymore. I grew up in a Catholic family. And because that's all I knew, when I reached campus and I went to a political science class, because the first lessons in the political science class is the construct of power. How do they construct? Power and control. So when I was seated in those classes, every day our professor used to challenge religion. And it created chaos in my head. I was like, what is he talking about? Because clearly what he was saying, I could see that this is true. But also, I know some other truth. And I went through a rough time in that period, because I was like
trying to find balance.
You were questioning.
Every time, and when I thought that I need now to leave church, I had also now to deal with the pressures of my family, you guy.
We expect you to.
You are not. You don't come to church anymore. What is going on? And now I also had to deal with that, and it was a rough time for me personally until when I made peace with myself and I chose, because that was of course much later after I understood, and I was like, this is me. Without me, the world does not exist in my eyes. Without me, because if I die today, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on in the world then. So I have to make this decision for me. And when he talked about it, I was like, I know what you're talking about.
Tuusah mentioned something. He said there's external pressure and then the internal pressure. And I think the whole goal is external pressure is a reflection to you. So that you can focus and harmonize everything from the inside. So like you said, when you have that external pressure, before you know your core, before you know your purpose, it can be very, very challenging. And I think the goal is, if you are left to discover yourself, where you fit in without judgment. I think that is the next generation that is very civilized of humanity, that men are not put on a patriarchal pedestal. Women are somewhere here.
So-
and then there are all these constructs. So
I want to ask on that pressure point, because what I gather from both, I feel like I'm getting unanimous
Response.
unanimous responses that men believe that when the pressure is external, it's societal, it's family pressure, it's the individuals around us. Of course, they start from the first unit, which is family, the community, society. Then they are just invisible rules that become external pressure. And then when you carry the external pressure so long, it becomes internal pressure. So you think it's from within, but it came from without before you could harmonize what was within.
Yes. Yeah. True.
I want to think this is patriarchy.
Yeah.
And patriarchy is basically male privilege,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I've heard women talk about male privilege and how to dismantle it, but for their benefits.
Yeah.
I want to hear from men, because I'm one of those people who really thought patriarchy actually benefits men, or for them, they're okay with it. Like, we handle this shit, we are okay. We want the respect, we are okay. We shall provide and protect, it is okay. You just be the woman, it's okay, just, So could we like just unpack whether you said something about the mental health maybe, or these things that breed toxic masculinity have their benefits and have their their weaknesses. And usually when we are decision making, we go with the benefits more than the losses. If you're cutting your losses and counting your wins, you're like, okay, I have some losses, but the wins are more, so let's take this route. So according to you, are the benefits more for the men for their mental health, or are they equal to the losses, or are there just losses, and because we are not aware, or because men are not aware of the detriments of it, have just decided to go by the flow and live like, on autopilot or in survival all their life, and it's okay. This is our normal.
Why is there patriarchy? I think is one question that we can ask. That I think
Politics, power and control.
Yeah.
No, give us the answer.
Yeah, partly, I think, but there is no patriarchy without matriarchy as well. Each side was designed. I think the issue is, when was it created and who was it created for? The time patriarchy was created, most likely it made sense for men at that moment in time, since they were physically strong, they were able to hunt, they were able to gather food, and the women were a little bit more vulnerable. They had children. By then they were giving birth to like so many kids. So giving birth and multiplying to fill the earth. So the gender roles were defined then, and that's what designed the patriarchy. But then as time goes, those things change. But then the issue is, some people stick with the tradition that this was there during Father Abraham's time. It has to continue doing, because God chose Abraham.
Kubanga bwechali
Forever and ever. So you have this thing, even where your filter of reality is through like a patriarchy kind of filter, where God is male, much of the popular religions, at least, that are there. So you have, then it most likely made sense. And I don't know, but I want to assume that by the times these were designed, they were not meant to be, let's say, misogynistic. They were not meant to oppress women. They were not meant to elevate men. They were meant to create balance. I want to assume that is the reason why these gender roles were designed, to create harmony and balance. But over time, culture is something that is dynamic. So you can't just say it is written in stone and it shall be like that. That's a very biased way of looking at life, and it limits evolution. The only thing that we know is a constant, is change. So if your culture doesn't evolve, if your awareness about life and your perspective does not evolve, then there's a problem. And I think that's why we have a conversation like this one. It's where people have been stuck into patriarchy, matriarchy, call that dualism. It's this, and the two cannot mix.
Either or.
Yeah, it's either or.
Yeah.
But I think our goal is we have to see the reason why it was in the first, like why it was designed. It's like the yin and yang.
Yeah.
It's meant to create this fluid balance between these two energies. There's energy from the feminine that is very different from energy from the masculine.
Yeah.
But it's not like the masculine can stand on its own. It's not like the feminine can be on its own. We need the balance so that both can harmonize each other. Today, I think that's why we have, again, this kind of conversation. We have forgotten the reason why those words were shaped. And it's us now to start redefining them in our own way and in our own culture, which I believe we might be like among maybe the middle or even the first generation to spread this awareness. Of course, there were movements that have always been, but this is something that if it took over 2,000, actually not 2,000 years, billions of years, let's say from the first Homo sapien to millions of years to where we are now, and we still have these conversations, then we still have a long way to get into that perfect balance. So the ones who know, then there shouldn't be, masculinity is not to fight against feminine. The women are not to fight against men. We are here to create a balance, and we know where we fail, these ones pick up.
Who is going to measure the impact patriarchy has served to date? And who is going to shed light on the grievances of that? Because this, I find it to be a system that has worked till now. And even though we feel like it hasn't served both parties, I want to be controversial. We are here because it has actually served. The issue, I think the question of today is, we do not, I think as people, as human beings, we are selfish. We always want the privileges and not the responsibilities.
And yet the Bible says, to whom much is given,
That
much is expected.
The men of today are our works as a society. Yeah? The emotionally unavailable men are a product of a patriarchy system that requires no emotional vulnerability on their own. Because all that is emphasized is physical ability. Toxic masculinity. So, has it served? Yes and no.
It has served the men or the entire society?
Women have benefited. Men have benefited.
I'm listening. You guys, people listening, the men here are looking at me like you.
Why I believe women have benefited? I also want to give a radical example. The women that are not working, the women that are escorts, the women that are into corporate prostitution, the women that are dating married men, the women that are thriving on an economy whereby they're not doing any work because they're meant to be given, are a product of that society. And they're taken good care of. On the effort and labor of men. Is it moral? That's another question. But because still the men have to work, the men have to put in the effort. How they decide to enjoy the loot is their benefit. And as a society, that's where we come in. That's where we bring in the moral questions. That's where we bring in, you're over-benefiting than the other. Because now, at this time, you get to realize these guys are enjoying more than we are actually enjoying. But if we go back to the basics, I think I want to take this back to what these requirements do and what should actually be done. More of an action point. that before we extend these pressures, before we tell boys what is expected of them, before we tell them they're supposed to be men of the households, should we allow them to be children first? Should we allow them to be
asking a question?
children first? It's rhetorical. Should we allow them to be children first? Should we allow them to be members of the family first? Should we allow them to grow into adolescents, into adults, before they get the identity of man or female?
Provider.
Before they get the identity of you're going to carry this, you're going to be the heir. These are from a good place. At the point where they're introduced, I think for me is where I find the question. Where the gender roles come in is where I find the imbalance. But because it has worked, it has created order that we grow up knowing what is required of you. And there is no democracy. You can't get on a round table to start voting. I will do this or not. By default. If you urinate while standing, your cat is cat. And it's not up for debate. So I feel that has served in a way that you don't get to vote, you don't get to choose. It's more of a dictated position. What does that mean? That it's going to go back to the individuals in these positions. It's going to go back to the people, us who make the society. That yes, I was offered this template, but as I've turned 30, how has this served me to date? Is this the template I want to pass on to my male children? Is this the template I want to pass on to my girl children or daughters? Because we realize society is dynamic and so many things have changed. But because we want privileges and not responsibilities, we have actually stuck, let me use that word, we have intentionally stuck ourselves on the privileges of that patriarchy and not the responsibilities. Because I think, as I said, that because these things came from a good place, I feel if they are made to the extent, but also context has changed now. Because now both of us can wake up and go and make an earning. Yeah. Both of us.
So someone told us even back in the day women were working. They would go to the farm. We were here. No, I remember. And even us, we thought, yes. Episode 2. And she claimed their grandparents, the grandmoms, were also working.
It was unpaid work.
It was just unpaid work. But they would equally wake up early, go to the farm, dig, carry out agriculture, do what? Come back and serve the man. Right? Yeah. And the man also knew he has to go hunt what, come back.
Bring loot back.
Yes.
And I don't know if I'm getting Tuusah right, because I feel like what he's saying that accountability moves well with privilege, right? It should be accountability and privilege. But, okay, are we saying that in today's society, right? And when it comes to mental health, to be exact, men are struggling with mental health because they want to enjoy the privileges of the patriarchy
without
but
the responsibility.
They do not want to account for it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. With that,
we are going for a break.
We are going for a break.
Looking for high quality audio production? Whether you're a podcaster, musician, or filmmaker, Mulika Studios brings innovation, creativity, and originality to every project. From professional recording and mixing to top-tier sound design, we ensure clarity and impact in every sound. And now, we're expanding knowledge with Mulika Audio School. Learn audio production, sound design, and music composition, all online, anytime, anywhere. Quality, authenticity, excellence. That's Mulika Studios. Let's create something original. Visit www.mulikastudios.com or contact +256 756 150 993 to book your session today. Mulika Studios, illuminating sound.
Welcome back from that break. We are Youth on the Wheels. We keep the wheels turning and the conversations
flowing.
Yeah, and I stopped at just before we went for the break. Tuusah had brought up a very important topic, that privilege and accountability moves together, and I want to refer to our previous episode where we hosted Mwanaisha Musa, and in our conversation, I tried to bring up certain things that concern men, and she said, why is it that whenever we start talking about women, then men come up with their issues also? Let's talk about women first, and then we'll talk about your issues later. So that made me think, why men don't ask for help? Is it because we can't do it? We can't ask for help? Or because we feel that our partners or women will not understand our struggles, and that means we don't even account in the long run? Because if I'm going to sit down and explain to you something that I'm going through, and you will tell me, no, because I pointed out this problem, now you are here telling me that because of this and this, I don't want your explanations. Man up, deal with your stuff. Is it because... And for me personally, I feel like that makes me want to just shut myself up and just deal with my things personally, and look at you. You bring up your problems, I'm like, oh, okay. And I will let you be, and I will also deal with my problem. What do you guys think?
Okay, so this is what I think. One is for a man to be vulnerable. They have worked on themselves. They have done self-awareness, and they have gone ahead of the other men. So they have put in effort, not a lot, but they have put in effort to be able to open up with whatever challenges they're going through. Because still, coming from the society that raised us, coming from the position we were offered, as a leader, you can never ask your followers for strategies. So you are expected to be the most, the wisest, the strategist, the schemist. So you're denied the chance to consult and get empowered.
But then does that make you unaccountable? Because...
Zija. So because that was the upbringing, you get to a place whereby you actually want to reach out. You want to find out what's on the other hand. Yes, I've been doing this, I've been driving this long, and I'm not the best driver. How about the person that is a co-driver? Or I'm getting tired, or I'm having a blood vision, and I know that they can actually drive. Can they step up and I get rest? So when men get vulnerable, women have not been empowered enough to treat men that are vulnerable.
How?
I'm listening to you.
Women have not been empowered
listening.
enough to meet men that are vulnerable. But also society has not prepared them enough to be able to comprehend, react, because what they have been offered is they know men are macho. When you have two children running and the boy falls down, the boy is expected to just dust himself and sit back. So they don't know men to cry. So this is a person who is a product of our society. Now she meets a certain Andrew, and the Andrew is crying. She doesn't know what to do with you. Not because she's emotionally unaware, but the template she was offered growing up is men do not cry. Men go through whatever they are going through. Yeah? So because she never expected it to happen, she never gets to know how to handle it when you actually break down. But do men break down? Yes, they do. Men do break down. Then there is also the other, I think through life experiences, and I think this goes back to us, that if a man, if a boy, if your boyfriend, if your fiancé, your man, your husband ever got vulnerable with you, I think that's one of the most intimate but delicate situation. That you are a safe space for this person, and what you do with that information that they've decided to download to offer you is going to be very instrumental for your life together, if you're going to be together. Because one, even if you walk out of this person's life and you never treated or you tarnished or used what was told to you against them. For example, a person could have opened up and told, like, hey, I was molested as a child. In my home, I had a stepmother that, like, sexual assault. But because you have a fight one day and he has not given you money for what, like, that's why even your stepmother molested you. That is
weaponizing against
That's
somebody.
weaponizing against, and this person might never be able to open up again till they die. Whether they are in your life or in the next person's life. And I think my call is, whoever decides to, I think if you are in position, if you are a teacher, if you are a friend, if you are in a space
where you're relating with people, and whether it's young boys that are trying to open up and tell you, like, I don't know how to go through this life, is before you ask them to be man up, offer humanity. Listen to what they have to say. Offer listening ears. Empower them. Let them feel like it's actually normal to open up. It's actually normal to be vulnerable, because especially for relationships, there are spaces, or there is a level you can never get to if one of you is not vulnerable enough. That's why there are going to be cases where someone will tell you, I knew what love was when I was 15 than when I'm 30. Because when they were 15, the world was still open. They hadn't met so many life experiences that hardened them in a way. And it's also possible that then they didn't know, because they were younger, they didn't know the position they held. They didn't know so much of what is expected and what is not expected. So out of being children, out of them being younger, they were able to open up. And because they were open at that time, that's when they knew the real love, because they were open. But as life goes on, as people are weaponizing whatever they are vulnerable about, and also as a man who is never expected to be weak, you also get to realize that so many people take advantage of your vulnerability. So you get to a place where you're very cautious that your best mode is when you're non-vulnerable. You play
that safe. You will get mentors who tell you, put yourself together and make sure this is how you show up every day. You actually put up an action. You put up an appearance. Make sure these are the things that you do. Make sure this is how you show up. Make sure these are non-negotiable. Because at the end of the day, you expect it to show up. Then you also caution, make sure that whoever you get to be vulnerable with is in your best interest. Because as men, and it's a bigger position, but still I want to take that assumption. Like, as men, the world is not very, 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 very soft when we become vulnerable. And that still goes back to us as a society, that yes, we expect these men to be vulnerable, but what has been done to the men that have gotten vulnerable? I think we still have memes moving around when Will Smith cried on an interview.
Yeah.
They were stylish. Like, we have those episodes where I've actually men been emotionally down, that they either broke down on interviews while the whole world was watching. And what turned out of that situation, no man would ever want to be in. So we are cautious. But those are high-end examples. But there are also so many instances, if you to reflect that there is actually a time whereby it was someone maybe in class that either tried to go to a basketball court and just didn't know, and the words were very unkind to him, and some of those people never went back to the courts. That we are a society that expects men to be not vulnerable.
Manner.
Because when they are not vulnerable, they're serving us. Now, when we can't find soft spots in their lives, if we can't find our positions in their lives, when we can't find their Achilles heels, now we start coming up with all these concepts that men are non-emotional beings, men are mechanical, moving objects, but I think I always want us to remember that we are a product of ourselves. That whatever we have become, we made ourselves that way. And that is not just us here, but as a society. We are products of our society.
Yes, Emanzi. Bring the house down. Pick up from Tuusah.
Yeah, Tuusah makes very, very valid points, I think. I just want to either bring the house down.
Yeah.
I want to say, I mean, it's these topics are very sensitive.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
really, really have to like define what masculine is and
Yeah.
what feminine is.
Yeah.
And I think at the core of a human being,
Yeah.
we have these energies in us.
Yeah.
Whether you're men,
Whether
you're a woman,
Yeah.
you have these two forces
Yeah.
inborn.
Yeah.
And your situation is going to make you perform
Yeah.
depending. Okay? There are situations that will force you
Yeah.
to operate on a feminine energy.
Yeah.
There are situations that are going to force you operate on a masculine energy, or you're man
Yeah.
or you're female.
Yeah.
And I think these are the points that we have to be very careful to identify in our generation.
Yeah.
Then they help us redefine what feminine, masculine, patriarchy, matriarchy is.
Yeah.
It's by not drawing hard boundaries and being like, a man is
Yeah.
like this and he has to do this.
Yeah.
A woman is like this and they have to do this.
Yeah.
We have to understand that, I mean, scientifically, we know these two main hormones, I think,
Yeah.
progesterone and testosterone.
Yeah.
I think it's called oxytocin or something like that. It's a hormone that women have in plenty, and it's what gives them that nurturing and that caring.
Yeah.
But that hormone goes higher if men are actually left with their children for longer.
Yeah.
So you kind of see that that's energy that is evolving depending on the situation. So you can't just draw lines and say, this is, I define masculine and this is it.
Yeah.
You have to operate like this, like that. You have to leave that room of being fluid
Yeah.
and knowing when this and this has happened, even if you're a man,
Yeah.
you're going to also, either we have the two hormones,
Yeah.
testosterone
Yeah.
and progesterone, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're low, depressed as a man, it means your testosterone is a bit low.
Yeah.
And that feminine hormone is higher.
Yeah.
So you need to understand each other. And the same will happen to women.
Yeah.
So you can't just say women operate like this and that is it, period.
Yeah.
Men operate like this, that is it, period. No.
Yeah.
You have both to study each other. If you have a partner, actually the most masculine on the surface tend to have that very, very gentle soft spot that is hidden inside.
Yeah.
And if you are a partner to this kind of man, then you really have to take time to study. Just because he addresses millions of people, it doesn't mean he won't break down at a certain point.
Yeah.
So he's not going to operate 100% in the masculine.
Yeah.
When he's down, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And I think that's what brings balance in the society.
Yeah.
That both men and women know that we are all human beings,
Yeah.
and the things that affect us are actually the same, but the degree varies depending on where you are.
Yeah.
If you're a man, I'm going to speak like a sound engineer.
Yeah.
Frequency.
Yeah.
You know, you've heard people say, I think I resonate with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think he's on a high frequency.
Yeah.
I mean, in sound, a high frequency is things are able to vibrate at a high frequency because there's less density, like a leaf. could vibrate more than a stone. The molecules in a stone are more compact.
Yeah.
So there's going to be very little vibration, and we call that low vibration.
Yeah.
And the way they define masculine, when you're suppressing your emotions, you're actually in a low vibration.
You're a
Because you're
stone.
not bringing awareness to that point of that emotion to illuminate it.
Yeah.
Because that's the way you heal it, actually. It's by going in and facing it and shedding light onto it.
Yeah.
So if they define you as a man and you're operating that low frequency all the time, there's no way you're going to heal. We shall always have these discussions of women are this, men are this, period. That's low vibration.
Yeah.
If we're on high vibration, we would understand that a leaf is fluid.
Yeah.
Water can bend, can change, and that's the whole point of us having those negative and positive, because they dance together and they create this dance between these two energies that will harmonize and balance you as a human being. So you can't, my point again is, we are having a dualistic discussion because that is the reality anyway. People are not aware of this, and if I speak the way I'm speaking, I sound like I'm seeing a world 1,000 years from now.
Yeah.
Which is not the current reality.
Are you a prophet?
No.
Thank you very much, all of you. I mean, I'm the only woman here. So thank you, Tuusah and Emanzi and
I hope
Noah.
you've been taking notes from one.
I am, but then I also wanted to clarify something that Noah had mentioned about when Manaisha mentioned. I remember that question, the context it came in, like, the question was valid of what about, because I remember I'm the one who asked the question. So there is something called deflection or shifting blame. If, for example, I'm married and my husband tells me, Hawa, you did this and it hurt me this way, that is not the right time for me to bring up my frustrations about him. Because it prevents me from taking responsibility or from admitting my transgression or the way I crossed him. And he's bringing it up so that I take accountability for that. So that, for me, I mean, that is the right time for me to apologize and make it up. Now, why she said that, why do we discuss, it's like how this conversation is about men, and instead of focusing on men and listening to understand, I start to say, but what about women? They are going through this. No, it is a men conversation. Yes, my next question is, how do they want to be supported? And of course that will involve girls. And somehow we can't have these conversations exclusive of the other, because somehow we feed into each other, or some of the effects men are facing
But
are
you
a
see how
result of
when I
men.
asked the same question,
So
they brought up something of the same sort. Because I asked that question, I was like, how can men support women? And the answer was, let women be.
yeah, so that's why I'm saying that. That's why I'm saying that. I'm not saying what she did was right. I'm just saying, depending on the context. I like in life, like generally, if my friend calls me out or calls me in, or my partner calls me in, or a colleague calls me in, it's just not that. Like, if I read a tweet, it's been running around on social media that said that when someone is drowning, that's not the right time to teach them how to swim.
True.
And I
I posted
identified with it. Even Kagai posted it. I identified with it so much because I'm a swimmer. And as a swimmer, and you're in water, you actually, like, I don't know if you guys have drowned,
Yes, I
but
have.
you know what it means to drown. And the trauma that you face when you're drowning is actually not the right time to teach you how to swim.
They just have to get you out.
They just have to get you out, give you, like, the
A kiss.
breath thing, the kiss of life, and then like otherwise, because the moment they try to teach you how to swim when you're drowning,
You're going to die.
you're never going to swim. Like, you're never going to step on water. You may never go for a boat cruise. You may never go on a ship. Like, it is that water. You and your relationship with water is over. Like, and unless you really unpack the water relationship and get back to rebuild, it never happens. That doesn't mean, I'm not even invalidating how you, like, what that made you feel. I just wanted for you to kind of know the difference, that if, like, maybe you're calling your partner out or your friend or what, in that moment in time, they should admit and take accountability.
Yeah, that's true.
And then have time when they bring up their own frustrations about you.
So you see now
in that time.
the tricky bit about that is, in society we are men and women and women, right?
True. That I made that
and what
disclaimer.
so you see what happens is okay, according to me,
Yeah.
right? The females in society have taken up, at least from my generation, that entire space of mental health, right? And promoting femininity. I don't know if I've said that word well, but the ladies in this current society, right, have been pushed so high that it feels like the men don't matter, or the young. It's always the girl child, the Women's Day. It is always women being celebrated, being thought about, being taught how can we improve their lives, and it feels like we've left the men for some other time, which I think will come in the next generation. But how about the men of this generation, right? It feels like our entire society right now is so focused on helping the girl child that they've ignored the boy child. And whenever the boy child comes up as a conversation, they tell you it's a man's world. They have really benefited from this for a long time. We need to now focus on the women. Yet I think personally we should be focusing on both, right? At the same time, we cannot wait for the next generation to start dealing with men's problems, because then it will be a cycle. We'll go to the men and ignore the girls, and then we will go back to the girls, and it will continue. So I don't know what you guys think about what I've just said.
Let me take it from there.
Okay.
And since we're talking about men's mental health, the statistics are actually very, very bad. Mental health, especially issues concerning men, the suicide, 3/4, more than 70% of men, the people that die by suicide, committing suicide, are actually males. And if we get to this point and people don't realize, they don't acknowledge that something is not right, then we have a bigger problem as society still. Because why are men not taking care of their mental wellness, mental well-being? Partly there are so many factors to put across, and I remember I was sharing with Bana earlier on that society has made men to be, I think, mechanical, like you're non-existent. That you are in a place, you are in a position where your role is not first to self. Your role first is to others. Another person will also counterattack women, give birth, their mothers, and sure, there are the dynamics to this. But you're going to realize that so many men are more of ATMs, like you simply earn, provide, and like you're transactional, that you never get to a position to pause and ponder about your life. You never get to pause, ponder, and do something for yourself.
Yeah.
Do something to appreciate yourself. But also society has made us men to be on the other extreme end. The image I'd used earlier on was special needs children and normal children. That when you have special needs children, as parents, you're going to focus more on the special needs children because they require so much of you. And the normal children will be given less attention, less care, less concern, because at the end of the day, the assumption is you're better off. That's where patriarchy has put us. So many people, the society assumes that men benefit from what? Patriarchy. From the start, you are already 10 steps ahead. You're not going to ask for spaces. You will be welcomed in spaces by virtue that you are a man. You'll get to tables that women will have to fight toe and nail to get to. And these assumptions have created a reality. What is the reality? That men are in positions where they're actually silently dying, depressed, surviving, that their entire purpose has been reduced to provision. That this man sees no contribution, no love, no affection, no presence is going to be measured as his contribution if he can provide for his family. That he has to make ends meet at all costs. And because he knows that if this is not there, if I'm not providing, if I'm not protecting, I'm no less a man. What do? People are in toxic spaces, toxic work environments. People are doing more than they can handle. I think you talked about it, whereby your body is fatigued, but you are in survival mode. You have to make ends meet.
Things have to happen.
Things have to happen.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we are losing so many men, because we expect so much from them and we offer little support. So my call out action would be, if you are in a space and you are mother of boys, you are mother of male children, you have male friends, offer the emotional space. Let them be available, let them be vulnerable, find out what is going on in their lives, and be as supportive as you can be, because that will take them a longer mile in life.
Yeah. I think the whole movement of empowering women, on the other hand, is not meant to push men down.
Yeah.
It's like you've said, they're underprivileged.
Yeah.
And I think we are like about, it's not even like 2 centuries
Yeah.
when women
Yeah.
were beginning to have space in the current social lives. So it's actually, right now is about the time that if we see that is happening and you feel like we feel like men, we are being left out, it's us who are aware that should start these campaigns, create platforms for men to express themselves, because everyone assumes you're fine. Everyone thinks the system is yours. Yeah, so I think it might even be something that can trigger a woman if you complain like that. Because
I know.
they're like, bro, it's your world, bro.
Ours seems to be suspiciously quiet.
Me, I'm not going to deflect like you.
Yes.
Me, I'm listening.
Yeah.
She's taking
and I'm
notes.
actually listening to understand.
Yeah.
Because for me, the reason me and Noah wanted to have this conversation is simply because we feel like we wanted to unpack for men.
Yeah.
Of course, this may not be the best. Like it's not. It's two Ugandans in Uganda, so
enough.
men have different experiences. Depending on their birth order, depending on their socioeconomic status, depending on their socialization, which parents have been present, how aware were their parents when they were raising them. So it's really relative. I just want for us to know that like even the women movements didn't come from a vacuum. They came from a place of pre-existing issues that they thought would be addressed by what they've done and the support they've given. Women didn't go to school because they didn't have pads and all these things. And this, just because boys don't go through this, it does not mean they don't need support. It is, what is the gender justice or gender equity here? That does a boy child need? And what does a girl child need? So me, I don't talk about it from a point of competition. It is not competition. It's collaboration. It is not, why are the other people standing out and I'm not? No, it is, as a person who's not standing out, how do I ask? How can I stand out like you? And I get mentorship and I get support. I get a coach, I get a mentor, I get a teacher to teach me how to rise to that level instead of me just, be playing victim the whole time and saying, no, you've not done this, you've not done this. And this brings me to my final question on the podcast is, as men who have been boys, I believe at least you have gone through 3 stages as of now. That's childhood, teenagehood,
Yeah.
that's adolescence, and now adulthood.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you're just starting because you're not 50 or 60, but you
Yeah.
are in adulthood.
You're there. Yeah.
I think there
Could
should
you-
be a category called oldhood.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we need to get to the old because I'm sure men who are like 50 or 60.
The youth ministers we have.
Right now we are young adults,
Oh,
actually.
yeah, the youth ministers are old dude, but like they are youth. Nice one, man. You guys, I wasn't here. How I left. But yes, as people that have been through all the hoods,
Yeah.
childhood, teenagehood, and adulthood, what advice would you give to people raising children who are boys below 12? Below actually 13, because at 13 you are a teenager, but like between 1 year and 12 years, how would you have wanted to be treated as a child, as a boy child? And also, what support did you need as a teenager? What happens for you as a teenager, as a boy teenager? And then what happens to you as an adult? What support do you need? What support do you need from family, from your male friends, from your female friends, from the female people around you, but also from male around you? When Tuusah talked of the suicidal rates are really high, that's a statistic I followed for a long time. But I know that the suicidal rates of male come in, then the femicides come in, and these femicides are caused by men. So when we are discussing suicide, I'm not taking it as an action of women, because it's men that carry out the action, but I'm taking it as a reaction to what is happening to the man in that aspect.
That's the right
And when a man chooses to react this way, what is causing suicide? I've also followed the prison. The prisons have more men than
inmates.
female.
Yeah.
The inmates.
all over the world.
Yes. So why do men choose to respond to situations this way? What support can they be offered, right? How can society structure a system that facilitates safety or facilitates support in a way that is supportive to help them recover and not to just emote the way they do to end up in these situations? Yeah, so basically, please go unpack it from like all the levels, because I think it's important for me and the listeners out there to actually just know how to navigate these dynamics in case they are presented such circumstances or situations.
Yeah, from where I started from, I talked about having conflict with my dad.
Yes, you did.
And then having support from my mother.
Yeah.
I think that was grounding for me. That's experiencing one negative from one side, and then you get a validation from the other side. As I grow, of course, at that time, I felt like, that is bad. How can he tell me such a thing? But as I've grown up through the stages, I got to a point actually where I had serious resentment for toxic masculinity. And it's one of the things that can trigger me. And I don't want to see violence and, like that. But it's something that is shaped quite early. And it could be words, it could be abuse, it could be like at different levels for me. So over time, I realized one of the ways for me I deal with my mental health is through artistic expression. So I do write a lot. One of the poems I wrote has a line that the more I fight some of the things I hate, the more I become them. So I just had to know how to put my resentment into check. And I think this applies to everyone, whether it's women resenting men or men resenting women. You have to get to a point where you balance yourself. Because by hating one more than the other, creates more conflict and more problems. And I used to have a lot of dreams every now and again fighting with my father until I felt like I had released all that pain, I had released all that fear, I had released everything that I held against him. And it's when actually that time I became like his favorite child at that moment in time. And it felt really good. It's something that I had fear. Fear had pushed me away from him. And then when I faced it, I felt like, we actually had so much bond than I could ever have imagined. So for me, it's harmonize yourself through yourself, whichever way you can express yourself. So the issue is, if you pile up pressure wants to be released. Every now and again, it wants to be released. In the field of quantum physics, there's a theory called, I think it's the law of minimum effort. Water seeks for the least path for it to be effective. Light is, when that bulb is shining, the light has actually gone through all possible paths, but it chose the least to reach me where I am. And it's you as a man, you have to find the least way, but that you find naturally that you can express yourself. If it's talking to friends, if it's writing, if it's singing, if it's whichever, artistic expression, if it's through actions that you have to do, and that can bring healing. And when that healing comes, so many things now like happen to you effortlessly. Even the things that you are fighting with women for power and control. A true masculine doesn't fight for power. You know, power comes to them, you know. And it's the same thing with women. I shared with Hawa something that when women hit menopause, in other animals, they have reached an age where they carry the memories of their species, and they are nurturing the young children, giving them, you know, that experience. And it's only human beings who demonize it when you reach menopause. It's like, you know, you're done. You're no longer a big value to society. But if we have more awareness, if we understand, we would actually realize a woman at that level is actually operating in an office that is a bit more masculine than the women below her. She's taking more responsibility and more leadership, in quotes, under the patriarchy system, because we are not about to escape it. We want it or not. So it's these different stages, like I said before, that we evolve. And these energies will, when I was a child, like I said in my story, categorized with women, whether you're a boy or not, you know, women and children this way, you know. But then you look up to your father, and then you're like, I want to be this, then you build a world, then you become that. So for me, I think self-awareness, no more conversation, self-expression.
So
how do we facilitate?
Like, how do we
support that? Like, how do we? I mean, self-awareness is a personal journey. We understand that, but when you say more conversation, how do we facilitate such safe conversations to happen? For a conversation to happen when you do not feel judged, you do not feel like your vulnerability is going to be used against you in the future or weaponized against you in the future, where you feel seen, heard, and understood.
Previously, I think I said we right now, if we are the ones that are seeing the path, we are the people to create that space for more men, because it's not like men are going to awaken out of the blue. If we are here having these conversations, this could be so meaningful to someone out there. And by listening to us, that's knowledge. And then on the other hand is creating platforms where they engage in. So they could be artistic platforms where men can come. Maybe you've written a poem. It doesn't necessarily have to follow all the rules of writing. You know, it's self-expression. There are no rules, actually. That is academic for you to write a poem that is right, in quotes also.
You've loved quotes today, but
yes.
I hear you.
Yes. I mean,
I hear you.
There's no right, there's no wrong in my world. It's where you are in life. It's your perspective at that point. So that's the thing. Let's create platforms where men can come, express themselves, have conversation. That's it.
Tuusah.
How can men be supported? How can boy children be supported? You said childhood, adolescence and adulthood, I think the first duty is to the man himself. I think for whoever is man, they should be able to see the world through their own lens. That there should be a time in life, in your own life, that you get to stand aside what you've been offered, what other people's expectations are, and figure out what of those are your own expectations of self. What of these do you really want to achieve before you sign out? What of these which things are you going to do for you as an individual? That if your life ended tomorrow and only this is what you will have achieved, will you be happy? Because at the end of the day, I'm thinking when you reach your demise, when you pass away, it won't be about the lives you've reached, the impact you've created, the influence. The biggest question will come back to you. That you were given this gift. What did you do with it? So every man should take responsibility for the life they've been offered. That what do you really want out of this life? What of life is it going to be personal enough for you? That is the first thing. And I think, as earlier on I said, that for every privilege, there is a responsibility. That as we get to enjoy the benefits, as we get to enjoy the positions, as we get to step in spaces whereby our forefathers could have fought for us to be in those spaces, let us be in positions of acknowledgement that we've been granted this power. We have been given these positions so that we don't misuse the power. We don't strain those. For example, if the women behind you have lobbied for you to be maybe the heir when your father passes away and then you waste resources that have been left to your entire family, you've misused power. It's not that you are wiser than your mother. No. It's not that you were more deserving than other female people in your family, but they all thought, society has made them think that you are in a better position. So because you were supposed to be in a better position, let us hold ourselves accountable and do so much when we are in such positions. But thirdly, I think for whoever has children, whoever is nurturing children, whoever is, and I don't want to think it's only parents that nurture children. I want to believe it's the whole village, society, school, and all the spaces we go through as we get older, that there should be a responsibility for everyone to pay attention. That male children shouldn't be the abandoned children. Yeah. That males shouldn't be the ones that are on autopilot. I like the metaphor that, or the concept that it's not only the girl child that needs to be given special care for a child or for parents, that all kids need care. So find out. Recently, I think we also have high statistics of suicides among teenagers because they're at that level where they're having so many questions about life, so many pressures. They don't know what to do, but we actually could be knowing. So we get to a place where, as men, we are also open to feedback. That yes, you're the driver, and you're there not because you're the best driver, but because of your childbirth. You could have been given the keys, but you should be wise enough to recognize when your vision is failing, when you're fatigued, to ask for support. And I feel that more work should be done about making, especially the males, aware about their emotions. Because so many times boys are told you not to cry. So if someone has been told not to cry, how is he going? Yeah, enume kulavigo. So when are they going to be vulnerable enough when they get older? There should be opportunities for whoever, the guardians, the society itself. Children should be given opportunities to be children first. And I think gender roles should come in later on in life. That all children should be children first. Then they get to a place whereby, because I think it's also very important to know your roles I'm not taking that away. You should actually know your roles so that you're offered, it's more of a basic. You get a starting point.
A benchmark.
Yeah, benchmark or a minimum standard, so that from then you can figure out your way upwards, because it's also very fatal for someone not to have a foundation. So the foundation should be kept, but it should come at a better point. But I also think as men, we should be more open about our emotions, open about our feelings, open about our aspirations, open about to the people we are accountable to, so that we are in better places to be helped. Because the biggest question we usually get is the people that really want to do so much for us are not able to know if we really need help at particular times. Because most times we function like we don't need help. So even the times we need help, the assumption is always, that guy operates that way. That guy is hyper independent. So we should be able to open up and seek help, but should also allow opportunities of getting assistance whenever they rise. That is it from my side.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
My co-host Noah, today you have cornered me, so bring it on. Finish it.
That was the goal. I'm revenging. Yeah, but I agree with what our guests have put forward. I think it is important for men to, first of all, be children.
Yeah.
Let them be children. Let them grow. And when you give those responsibilities, when you start defining the roles for them, you should also allow them to go through those responsibilities.
Yeah.
And when they are challenged, allow them to put out their emotions.
Yeah.
Like let them, if they have to cry,
Yeah.
let them cry.
Yeah.
And after, when they are done crying, bring them back. Now tell them this is okay to cry, but this is maybe what you should be thinking of doing next.
Yeah.
Because then you are telling them that it's okay for you to go through your emotions, and after, pick yourself up and keep moving.
Yes.
Because most people don't even know how to deal with these emotions. And in my personal experience, where I come from, we are 3 boys.
Yeah.
And because we are 3 boys who grew up, the biggest part of our lives, we were just us, boys.
Yeah.
We didn't have any girls.
Yeah.
And our mom was never there because she was a very busy person.
Yeah.
And now the dynamic was, we are all men.
Yeah.
Right?
Figure
and that
it
is
out.
rough. Because even me as a last born,
You were a man.
I was a man, you know?
Yeah.
And there was no that softness of, you know what, bro, it's okay.
Take it easy.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, even the word sorry for me started ringing when I was a teenager. And that was because I was now in another society. I was in boarding school and people come from different places.
Yeah.
But as us,
Are you serious?
and that's how boys live. I mean, you remember when I was going to bring a very attacking example, but I mean, there are so many men who you will even do things for. If a fellow man does something for them, they will just be like, hey, what's up, bro? Chakabi.
Yeah.
Like, they will not appreciate it that way. I mean, we had this conversation with you.
Yes, we did. And actually, I thought people will bring it up. I thought Emanzi or Tuusah will bring up the male friendship, the brotherhood.
I am bringing it up.
Brotherhood. So
the bromance also works
it needs to be worked on.
Because even men are toxic for men. You get
True.
a fellow man will come to you, tell you all their problems. I'm going through this. My woman is treating me like this, bro. I'm suffering, and the guy will be like, "We don't know now."
Tunonya sento.
Like a woman does that to you and you are still complaining?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Gets to come and complain.
That's what I'm saying. That even us men,
We are toxic
need
to each other.
Safe places for our fellow men.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Because our dynamic, I mean, me and my brothers, it's very weird. And if they are listening, I'm sorry, bros, but
we need to work on ourselves.
we need to work on it, you know? It's so weird that I will call one of my brothers for example, and I need something from them.
Yeah.
And they'll tell me, man, if you know busonga butono bwetu sako. You get?
Yeah.
But I really need help.
Yeah.
Because I failed. By the time I'm telling you,
Yeah.
I failed. So we need to, as men,
Yeah.
to know kwebereramu. That's
Yeah.
the right word.
That's true.
Bereramu, no?
Yeah.
Because actually what happens,
Let me brag. For me, my brothers,
eh,
we tell each
I
other,
know,
I
I
love
mean,
you.
some of you are so lucky,
planned
or you're
son.
planned kid. But what I'm saying,
I hear
Yeah.
you. Your
What
story.
I'm saying-
Yeah.
is we need men actually we run to other men for help.
Yeah.
Most times,
Yeah.
because I mean, Emanzi is a planned kid,
Yeah.
so and I can't go to my brothers.
Yeah.
Emanzi is now that place for
Right.
me.
Yeah.
I
Your
come
bro.
and I just let things out to him
Yeah.
because I know he will handle them
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
He's sensitive enough to know that okay, he's probably not ready for banter now.
Yeah.
Like he knows when the
Yeah.
banter comes and when. So
Yeah.
I'll come and lay stuff to him,
Yeah.
and he will know. Okay, Kati, he's here.
Mm.
So I need to handle him like this.
Emanzi, is he paying you for therapy? Like, you know?
How? This big idea.
When it comes to money, okay.
Yeah. So we need to. That means we need to work on ourselves because
Yeah.
Tuusah will go to another man instead of talking to his woman.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you have a woman. But
That's very important.
yeah. So the other thing that I wanted to say,
Yeah.
as women,
Yeah.
they need to learn that we have moments also. It's not
Yeah.
only them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, a woman... Okay,
It's
in my
always their
personal
moments.
experience,
It's
let me
always
not
there.
generalize.
Yeah.
In my personal experience,
You're women?
let's be guided, bro. Yeah, in my experience with women,
Yeah.
they always have moments.
Yeah.
There is a moment when they are so happy,
Mm.
and some of them blame it on the hormones. They're like,
Yeah.
my hormones are...
Towards this, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even us, we have moments. There's a day I'll be just stressed by work and I just don't want to maybe go into a conversation with you. I just want to be...
Coitus.
I just want to be...
But to why are you like this?
Yeah. So in those moments, you have also to take time to understand
Yeah.
the men in your life.
Yeah.
What are their moments like?
Yeah.
How do they act when they are in these moments? Because I've seen guys that go out and start drinking every day.
Yeah.
And instead of people sitting and thinking, what moment is this guy in? Why is he acting like this?
Yeah.
People will actually just judge them.
Yeah.
They're like, you're a man. You are just drinking every day. And you can see clearly that this man is struggling.
Yeah.
Because even them, no man wants to live like that.
Yeah.
They're going through something.
Yeah.
And they can't talk. They can't talk to anyone probably.
Yeah.
So they just hang by the bar. And so it would be more helpful for a woman, let's say, and I'm putting it in quotes because I haven't yet married, but my wife, to realize that Noah is acting out. This is not him.
Yeah.
Even if I'm not telling you, because maybe I'm affected with my past, like Tuusah said, that if something comes up and you use a man's situation against him, he may never be able to open up. But if you are in my life and you care about me and you want to help me, you are able to see these patterns.
Yeah.
You are able to see that now this is not him.
Yeah.
This is out of character for him. And when you realize, do not go on the judgment end first.
Yeah.
First try and understand what's going on. How can I help you? Talk to me. Like try and probe. And then if maybe things have failed after you have probed and you've made effort, then of course you can do whatever you want.
You're
Yeah.
at liberty.
To do whatever.
proceed
I did my
as you
part.
find fit.
Yeah, for me, those are my parting shots to this conversation.
All right. Thank you very much for I'm honored to be the woman in the house of men. I'm in planet Mars right now. And yes, thank you for the insights you have shared. This is our 4th episode of Youth on the Wheels. We keep the wheels turning and the conversations flowing. Yes, with Hawa and Noah. Thank you, listeners, for listening in. Please feel free to share your questions, your opinions on the comments. Feel free to comment.
And all our
pick
social
up.
media.
Yes, if you want any topic to be hosted on the podcast, kindly comment, share it with us. We shall pick up on it and schedule it for one of the months.
And also, if you want someone to be hosted on the podcast, comment their name and we shall do our best to get them to have these conversations. We are located at Youth on the Wheels across all social media. YouTube, Youth on the Wheels, everywhere. Just check us out. I want to give it back to her since she's the only woman.
No, we are done, guys. Thank you so much. Just follow us on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you do not miss our next episodes where we keep the wheels turning and the
conversations flowing.
If you liked what you heard, subscribe to our podcast, share with a friend, and follow us on social media to stay updated on new episodes and behind-the-scenes insights. Until next time, keep the wheels turning and the conversations flowing.